All right, so good evening and welcome everyone to the Fire Mountain Scout Day Summer 21 COVID update. It is April 15th and we're less than 3 months away from the first week of camp that we've been able to hold since August of 2019, and gosh, are we excited for that. With you tonight, we've got the three members of our camp leadership team. That's myself, Eric Buher. I'm the camp director and the chief complaint receiver. Also with us are Jolynn Garrett. She is our program director and the face of fun, as she would like to say. And then Emily Shanahan, our business manager. She's in charge of all the things that keep our scouts alive, be it the food in the dining hall, the Slurpees in the trading post, or the medic and the health and safety folks who do the actual life-saving type stuff. And of course, bandaging after finger carving and all of that. So we're pretty excited with that all of the work we've been putting into thinking through this summer and adapting to new plans and new solutions are finally looking like they're going to bear fruit, and we're excited to be sharing it all with you. As we talk tonight, topics we're looking at will include, first and foremost, where are we getting our information, our plans, our guidance from? We want to be totally transparent, enable you to go look at the same stuff that we're looking at to understand what's guiding our decision-making skills if you're of mind to do that. We're going to dive into kind of our general philosophy around our COVID mitigation strategy, something called the Swiss cheese model. We'll talk through all of the thinking and the steps and the actions you need to take before you ever arrive at camp to make sure that we're going to be safe while we're there. We're going to dive really deep into the idea of what is a cohort. Many of you have probably heard that term, but we want to really understand what is it and how is it going to be realized at camp, and what will that mean for many of the things we do, like dining, camp-wide events, and other things. There's kind of a hodgepodge of miscellaneous logistical issues that we'll go into. And then Jolynn is going to get to dig into some exciting pieces from the program guide that was released a couple of weeks ago. And then we'll wrap up with any questions that you have for the lot of us. So our information is coming from two big places. The first, just to point out, is that as of March 23rd, 21, Washington State has authorized overnight group summer camps to operate in Washington State in counties that are at phase 3 or later in the roadmap to recovery. So we can sound the bells, cheers of huzzah. We are excited to get that. We've been anticipating it ever since last July when they said we couldn't operate, and we finally came around. The specific guidelines that came with this authorization were shared in a document that was released on March 23rd called the Outdoor Recreation COVID-19 Requirements. This was the latest update to those and included guidelines for overnight group summer camps. We're happy with these guidelines in particular because they were developed not just by the governor's office, but in consultation with a new group in the state called the Washington State Camps Coalition, or WSCC, which represents nearly 150 camps across the state, including Fire Mountain and the Mount Baker Council. So these were guidelines developed with the input and with the expertise of camping professionals throughout the state. They aren't arbitrary. They aren't being mandated on us. These are things that we as camps proposed and accepted to help make sure that we could be safe for our campers. These requirements are available online, and you're invited and welcome to check them out and see what the rules are that were planned by. I also want to point out that the guidelines that were developed were heavily influenced by a document produced by the American Camping Association called the Field Guide for Camps. This was originally produced by them from an environmental engineering firm. It's been rigorously applied and tested over the summer of 2020 in camps that were able to operate in their communities, and been updated based on knowledge from that. This document has been endorsed and referenced by the National BSA Outdoor Programs Group as well. So any scout camp you talk to in the country is going to recognize and know this document inside and out to help guide what they're doing. And so without further ado, we have the Swiss cheese model for how we are mitigating COVID this summer. And the big philosophy here is that there is no one intervention, no one magic bullet that's going to completely prevent the spread of disease at camp. But as we layer things, each layer of each strategy reduces the spread, and with enough strategies and enough buy-in and enough participation from everyone involved, we see that potential for the spread of COVID is reduced and reduced and reduced, and eventually hopefully eliminated. This covers steps that are really at a level of personal or troop responsibility, things that you and your scouts will be personally responsible for throughout your time at camp. Personal hygiene, like washing hands, vaccinations as available or appropriate for leaders and scouts, behavioral quarantine to make sure that you don't get exposed to anything at the last minute, the cohort model, which we're going to be talking a lot more about, physical distancing, travel to and from camp and how you get there, face coverings, pre-event screening. And with that, we start to get into things that are more broadly applied by our camp as well, including things like sanitation, disinfection and cleaning of camp, how we deliver programming indoors versus outdoors, how we think about and deliver food service to you, the response plans that we have in place if there is a positive case, how we isolate and quarantine and prepare for them. So the graphic here, which went through so many revisions coming from national, I've got at least a dozen of them at different stages stuck in my folders. And really deep thinking into helping all of our families and units and guests who will be at camp this summer understand this idea that there's no one action that we're doing that's preventing the spread of COVID. It's the weight of all of them together that are what's helping to keep us safe and healthy and happy and having fun at camp this summer. So before you ever arrive at camp, there's a number of things we can do. And the first of those are grouped into what we call non-pharmaceutical interventions, or NPIs. So these aren't drugs. These are behaviors that are helping to keep us safe. And the first big one here is a positive attitude by all of us, but especially the leadership at camp. That means both our camp staff, as well as all of you, the leaders of your troops. Research from camps that were successfully operated with no COVID exposures in 2020 shows that probably the leading factor to that success was that among the leadership, there was a culture of compliance and acceptance and understanding and enthusiasm for the interventions that were in place to help keep everyone safe. If we go into camp with an attitude that, we're being forced to do these things and that, gosh, that stinks and I'd really rather not doing it, that attitude, as we all know, will transfer to our scouts and they're going to have a bad week and see all of these barriers. But if we go in saying, isn't it so great that we're here? And yeah, I'm wearing a mask, but I'm doing that to help keep everyone safe. And we're eating differently and we're doing program differently. And we go in with that attitude of, we're doing all of this, which allows us to be here in this beautiful place and have fun and do it with an attitude of acceptance. That's going to translate to our scouts as well, and it's going to make sure that they have the wonderful experience that we want them to have at camp. A few more of those NPIs that are really key is masking, and this means by everyone, all of our staff, all of our campers, all of our leaderships are going to be masked basically all the time. There are some specific exceptions there when we're eating, when we're sleeping, brushing our teeth. These aren't things that we can do with masks on. Things like our aquatics area will have some specific guidelines for how buddies are gonna be managed without masks, because swimming with a mask on is awfully difficult. But just like with that positive attitude, we need adult leaders to help set the example, to help remind scouts that we want to be wearing masks. Per our outdoor rec guidelines, point 10, simply says, again, masking by everyone all the time. This isn't a decision that the camp has made or that the BSA has made. This is coming from the state. This is a requirement for our operations. And so that's great. We're gonna have this in place, and it's gonna be part of that culture. Physical distancing is another one. We want a minimum of 6 feet of space between cohorts at all times. And what exactly a cohort is, if that's a new term or a term we need to refresh, we're going to spend a lot more time on here in just a few slides. But when scouts are within the same cohort, some close contact and that sort of thing is fine. They're going to be sharing sleeping space and living space and that sort of thing. But between cohorts, we want to make sure that there's always that physical distancing going on. Finally, hand washing. When we talk with our council physician, Dr. Dahlberg, and with our health and safety maven, Sue, we hear over and over again that the single greatest thing that we can implement to help reduce or slow or stop the spread of disease of any kind at camp is hand washing. We give a lot of credit to hand sanitizer in what we're doing, and sure, that helps in a pinch, but there is absolutely no substitute, we're told, for soap, water, and friction. Get your hands clean as often as possible. When you're going to the bathroom, before you've gone to the bathroom, after eating, before eating. If you haven't seen a kid for 10 minutes, remind them to wash their hands. This is another cultural thing we want your help to implement to make sure that scouts are washing their hands. We've made sure that there's ample opportunity in campsites and program areas all around camp where hand washing can happen. And we want to make sure that not only is it available, but that it's used.
Eric, I would just like to bring up and just kind of remind everyone, and this is probably a little more directed to the feminine side, but to remind people that hand washing is going to be really, really important, but it's also going to dry out hands. You're going to get cracks and stuff. So maybe adding some lotion to your first aid kits might be an idea that we could think about, and so that your hands aren't so dry and cracky and bleeding and hurting, especially when you use the hand sanitizer.
Absolutely, there we go. Taking care of ourselves to make sure that we can follow those follow that principle of hand washing is super important. Thanks, Jolyn. More thoughts about while you arrive at camp, and this one is again coming to us from those outdoor rec guidelines. In fact, it's the very second point right after have a very detailed plan that's available to the public. It says everyone who comes to camp, all of our scouts, our leaders, our staff, must do one of these two options before they arrive at camp. They either have to be fully vaccinated or they have to receive a negative COVID test no more than 3 days prior to arrival and remain in quarantine between the test and the start of camp. This is something that we know is going to be a challenge. Vaccination is only today has become open to anyone, to all of our folks 16 and older. And I can attest that finding appointments right now is really tough because everyone and their brother is trying to do it. And we know that there's lots of reasons why folks might be choosing not to get vaccinated yet. And that means that we've got to get that test. They've got to be able to quarantine until they arrive at camp. But again, this is the requirement that's been put to us by the state. These practices are what allow us to operate. Not only that, we need to verify, to document proof that our participants have met this requirement. And so as part of the program guide, there's this form, the COVID prevention verification form. On that you'll list all of your adult leaders, all of your scouts who are coming to camp. You can check either yes, they've got the vaccine, or yes, they've got a negative test and they've been quarantining until getting to camp. There's going to be some piece of paperwork that proves that for that person, either a vaccination card that says yes, they're vaccinated, or a negative test that you can gather, and that all of that documentation needs to come to us when you arrive at camp. And that's per the requirement by the state. Additionally, we want to make sure that, again, with another layer of Swiss cheese, that we've been tracking our scouts that they're healthy coming to camp. So we have a 14-day pre-camp health screening form that we'd like every participant, every youth, every adult to complete, and turn that in with that COVID prevention verification as form. So that's the form itself, and then 2 pieces of documentation for every single person on the form, the pre-camp health screening form, and some piece of paper that documents either that they're vaccinated or that they've received that negative test and quarantined. All right. Arrival at camp is our next step here as we move through these slices of cheese. And we've implemented a number of protocols to help make this, help make sure that this is secure and safe. The first is that we'll be assigning troops staggered arrival times between 12 p.m. and 3 p.m. And we need you to stick to these times as closely as possible. This is going to give us a chance to get all of your scouts in, get them temp tested, get gear up and moved onto your campsite without creating the big crowds that typically happen with Sunday arrival at camp. When you arrive, the first thing that's going to happen is that we're going to do a symptom screening and a temperature check of everyone in each vehicle. And if any member within a vehicle fails, to be safe and out of abundance of caution, that entire car is going to go home. Now we know that sometimes in a hot car we can see, especially young children's temperature rise. If it seems like it's a day where that's going to happen, we'll have people step out into some shade, drink some water, give them some time to cool off before we do those temp checks. But we need to hold the line on this one, that we don't want any possibility of COVID coming into camp. And so we're going to be looking at that carefully. On the topic of travel to camp, as you're setting up carpools for driving to camp, there are some great guidelines for the right way to do that. Everyone who's traveling in the car should be masked, windows open to allow for ventilation, and that sort of thing. But even a step beyond that, our suggestion is that you'll be establishing before you come to camp what your cohorts are going to look like, who's sleeping where, who's going to be sharing space anyway. And so we recommend that you assign them to vehicles in that carpool based on those cohort arrangements to make sure that that they're coming to camp with the group of people they're already with all week. All right, so I've referenced this a couple of times. What is a cohort and what does that mean at Fire Mountain this summer? At camp, a cohort is a self-contained group of scouts and leaders that will experience the program together. They'll move through their day doing all of their activities as a group. We won't be having scouts split up, going their separate ways throughout the day, mixing with other scouts from all over camp. Instead, every cohort experiences their version of the program together. That means that no member of a single cohort should ever come within 6 feet of someone from a different cohort. This is another non-pharmaceutical intervention, because it means that if we do have a scout that has a positive test or starts showing symptoms, that we can simply isolate that cohort, and we know that no one else outside of that cohort has any exposure. So this helps with contact tracing. It helps to limit spread, and is going to be a challenge, but I think one that has led to some really creative ideas for how a program will operate this summer, and we'll get into that as we move forward. As we look at the outdoor recreation guidelines, it defines 2 types of cohorts, and so some of the terminology gets a little dense in figuring out what they mean. So to help make that simpler, they start with a sleeping cohort, which is the group of scouts that are sharing the same sleeping space, an Adirondack or a group of stents. Because our Adirondacks are groups of 8, hey, that's a patrol. So when we talk about a patrol, we're talking about the group of kids that are sleeping together in a particular space. And then the guidelines talk about a daytime activity cohort. And in this case, they allow sleeping cohorts to be consistently combined throughout the day up to a group of 16 scouts. And so in the scouting world, that's 2 patrols. At camp, that's 2 Adirondacks, or groups of up to 8 stents with housing that will form that cohort. So Part of those requirements mandate that campers have at least 6 feet of physical distance from other campers' heads when they're sleeping. As we've looked and reviewed what our sleeping spaces are, our Adirondacks are great. They're huge. They've got these big, long bunks. Scouts can sleep toe to toe. They'll have 12 feet or more of distance between their heads. There's a big old door and window, plenty of ventilation moving through. We can fill our Adirondacks to capacity, which is 8 sleepers. On the other hand, our stents are quite a bit smaller. Folks are inside are closer together. So in that case, we're going to limit the stents to just 2 people, even though most of them have 4 bunks. That means that scouts should be sleeping head to toe on opposite walls, and they should be split between the upper and lower bunks. And that'll give them the space that they need to be safe, have enough ventilation, again, windows and door, make that good there. Cohorts of 16 present an interesting challenge to some of our troops, we know, because they're bringing more than 16 people. So we look at this first from an adult leadership perspective, is that every cohort, since they're moving through camp separately, should have 2 adult leaders assigned at all times. If your troop has 16 or fewer scouts, that's great. You're already bringing at least 2 adult leaders, you're a single cohort, you're ready to go. If your troop is bigger than 16 scouts, that does mean that for the program, for everyone's health and safety to meet these guidelines, we are going to have to ask you to split your troop into 2 or more cohorts that will function semi-independently. Obviously, we know that troop structure is going to keep those cohorts together and in the same place, but that 6 feet of distance through all of the things that we do is what's really going to need to be maintained. So if you have more than 16 but less than 32 scouts, that means that you can be divided into 2 cohorts. Each cohort needs 2 adult leaders, so you need to be bringing 4 adult leaders to camp. If you have more than 32 scouts, less than 48, that's dividing into 3 cohorts, and that's 6 adult leaders required. We're aware of a handful of troops, 5 or 6, that are not currently bringing enough adult leaders to meet these split requirements. So we want you to take a look at what's going on. If it looks like you'll have difficulty adding an additional adult or 2 to meet these requirements, please reach out to it as quickly as possible. We've got some ideas for how we can help support you in meeting this requirement and satisfying both our youth protection needs as well as state requirements. So please don't, if this is a challenge, please reach out to us so we can help you in addressing it. Cohorts will also be a big part of dining at camp. Gathering 300 to 350 people into our dining hall all in one place is not a great prospect in terms of keeping that 6 feet of separation. And so we've made the decision that meals will instead be delivered in campsites. Most of the meals will be delivered ready to eat. We're going to cook them, portion them, stick them in either hot or cold boxes for delivery, and send them out to your campsite. You'll just unpack and enjoy. We do have a couple of meals we've planned that specifically will be delivered to you to be prepared in the campsite by your scouts. This will either be a breakfast or dinner 1 time a day, Monday through Friday. So there's 5 meals this way. You'll be preparing either a breakfast or a dinner. We've intentionally designed these campsite cooking meals so that they can be completed in nothing more than a Dutch oven over coals, which we can provide for you. But you will probably want to consider, along with your PLC, bringing some patrol cooking gear that your scouts are maybe more familiar with, that are more convenient or easier to use, that you can bring to camp. The specific meals that you'll be cooking are detailed in our program guide, and you can check that out. We've also just about got our full menu finalized and the approvals needed so that we can release it on our website so that you can see what the whole menu looks like for the week, and that's coming pretty quick. All right. Another big impact of the cohort model and that need for separation and avoiding congregation are any of the camp-wide events or gatherings that we would normally do. We've had to reimagine a lot of these activities. So for example, flag ceremonies. we aren't going to put 300 people on the parade field together. Instead, your troops are going to be doing your own flag ceremonies in your campsites. We're preparing guides for you each day that will have a song of the day, a fact of the day, a weather report from the Weather Rock, a little section on meeting a particular staff member, all sorts of great odds and ends that can help spice up your flag ceremonies in the way that we would typically do at our camp-wide ones. But they will be delivered in campsites. Likewise, campfire programs. We're not going to plug everyone into the campfire bowl. Instead, we've got some staff members that will be visiting your campsites during the week and performing personal campfires just for you in your sites. And we're really excited about the change in style and what the creativity that's going to allow our staff to bring in delivering some of these things. Finally, the crowd favorite Lake Challenge is big events or big groups of people together to see the different stations, to see the folks at the end, and we just can't do it. But we have adapted and overcome into to an event we are calling the Great Cohort Challenge. We invite your scouts to be prepared or be destroyed. Some miscellaneous logistical issues that we want to address that didn't really fit anywhere else. We are anticipating that scout leaders will conduct a daily symptom check, which includes a temperature screening of all of their scouts and leaders in their campsites and report those results to admin. We'll keep them collated and documented to show that it's been done. We will be providing a no-touch thermometer, an InstaScan thermometer that your troop can use during the week. If you have your own model that you trust and want to bring, you're of course welcome to do that. Another requirement of our outdoor recreation guidelines from the state is that there will be no outside visitors allowed in camp. We won't be able to have parents drop in during the day to see how scouts are doing or that sort of thing. We can still allow adult leaders to swap out midweek if they'd like to, but with a couple of caveats. First, if the new arrival coming in has to follow the same pre-camp screening and procedures as the Sunday arrivals. They need to either be vaccinated or have that negative test and 3 days of quarantine, and they need to do that 14-day symptom pre-screening. Also, once you leave camp, we can't allow you to return. So that means that if you're swapping out leaders, you can't have Scoutmaster Bob, who's there Monday, Tuesday, and then returns Thursday or Friday to end out the week. We've got to have new people coming in to replace those who are leaving. It also means that we won't be able to allow you to run down into town to pick up, root beer floats for the boys or a pizza party one night or that sort of thing. Once you're in there, once you're at camp, you're there for the week. There is an exception allowed for parents or guardians who need to come up in case there's an emergency of some sort, or if a scout needs to go home for any reason. But with that sole exception, there's no ability to accept visitors. That does mean that our world famous chicken barbecue will not be the family night event that it's traditionally been. We'll still be flipping chicken and putting on a great spread, but only for our campers. We'll have a new staff role and have a number of staff members who are filling this that we're calling the Health and Safety Ambassador. Now, the unsophisticated might look at this and think, oh, that's just a janitor. Well, let me respond to that first by saying that a single competent janitor will do more to prevent the spread of disease than any doctor in the world. But these are far more than janitors. These ambassadors are on-staff experts on COVID sanitation and prevention at camp. They will be roving camp throughout the day, cleaning all of our high-use areas, including bathrooms, showers, all of that sort of stuff multiple times. They'll also be checking in with you and your campsites each day to answer any questions that you have, to make sure that you have the supplies that you need to sanitize your outhouse, your wash stations, sleeping areas, all of that stuff. They're the experts that you're going to go to answer the dozens of questions you're going to have, especially in the first couple of days, about all the little bits and procedures that are in place to keep us all safe. All right, a couple of last things on my portion here. We want to make sure folks know we are hosting troops from out of state, which I know has been a question. We're confident that with our Swiss cheese model and the way the COVID program works, that anyone coming from out of the area will be just as effectively isolated from the possibility of spread as the rest of camp, and we're not concerned about that as an issue. The state outdoor rec requirements do require that any out-of-state campers follow the CDC travel guidance in arriving at camp, and you can check the CDC website for details on what that entails. And then we wanted to mention, while we have said there's no visitors allowed in camp, as a necessary part of our operation, there are a limited number of vendors who make deliveries during our weeks. That includes our food service people, Costco deliveries, the folks bringing ice cream and soda to the trading post. All of that has to come in, or if Jolynn doesn't get her Toll House cookie sandwich, I just don't think camp could continue. Each of our vendors has been contacted. They're following a very specific no-touch delivery protocol that will limit any potential for spread into the camp staff or the camp as a whole. All right. I'm going to stop talking for a bit and turn this over to Jolynn, who's going to talk about camp program.
You want me to unmute? Hi, everyone. Super excited to be talking to you. Super excited about talking about camp. As Eric had said earlier, I'm the face of fun. I have taken all these guidelines and put together, with the help of an amazing team, helped put together what we hope to be a very memorable summer. First off, we know it's going to be different. It's going to be we're going to be wondering what's going on. But the program itself, I hope you guys will all see and enjoy camp as much as we have previous years. All right. We've already talked a little bit about this at the beginning, but arrival at camp. Each troop will be assigned a time to come into camp. And we again ask that you come as close as you possibly can to your time slot. We're going to be having some, up to 16 different troops coming in, and we want to be able to get everyone through between 12 and 3 in a timely manner as possible. At that time, your troop will park together. And you will meet your troop guide. Your troop guide will go ahead and start the temperature checks. That is when you will also receive your thermometer for the week. Just so you know that that the thermometer that they will have is the one that you can use for the rest of the week. After the initial check-ins, you guys are going to go ahead and your troop guide is going to take you guys in to start settling into your campsite. So when you are going in for your campsite, you are automatically going to peel off your adult leader that will head into the admin area. We'll have tables set up outside. You will need all of your paperwork, starting with the COVID prevention forms, all the paper at the back of the program, which can include, swim checks, all of the med forms, all of that you'll need to bring with you, and any final payments that need to be addressed then. So the next, we are going to talk about bundles. So the basics, the bundles have been published. You can take a look at that in the program guide, but it just quick oversight on them. They are 1 to 4 merit badges that your scouts can choose from once your bundles have been chosen. You will have the opportunity to choose 8 bundles before camp. The selections, you want to choose your selections according to the scouts in that particular cohort. I'm going to give you a for instance. If you choose the marina and 8 of your scouts can't swim, you know, that's going to be kind of that balancing act that you're like, those kids are going to be kind of sitting out and doing nothing or working on something else. You are guaranteed at least 1 aquatics and 1 shooting sports. So in that particular case, I would probably pick the swimming beach for those scouts that can't swim. So just be aware of the scouts in your cohort as you are picking those bundles. So thank you. Go, Eric. So these are 2 examples of some of our bundles. Our Be Prepared bundle, first aid, search and rescue, and emergency preparedness. And then on the water, which is our marina, canoeing, kayaking, stand up, not fall down paddleboarding, and small boat sailing. So these 2 particular bundles, we have really worked hard on providing different opportunities for different age scouts. We do understand that this is not going to fit for everyone. And we have put into place a couple of options, which we'll look at in the next page.
Before we move on, Jolynn, I wanted to make sure folks know the basic idea here is that your troop will select a bundle of badges that can be offered at your site, and then for a particular merit badge session, and then your scouts will choose 1 badge within that bundle to work on. So with this Be Prepared bundle, you would have staff members from our outdoor skills area arrive at your site with all of the materials to teach those 3 badges. But your scouts will choose 1 of the badges to be working on. They wouldn't be working on all 3 at the same time.
Thank you. What if my scout has all the badges in that particular bundle? Great question. I'm so glad you asked that. Again, we have done our best to arrange these bundles to meet the needs of your troop, but we know it's not going to be perfect. We understand that. We would like to encourage scouts to act as mentors. This is a great opportunity for your older scouts to grow their leadership and responsibilities and their patience. So, and as I was mentioning earlier, in addition to these specific bundles that you can sign up for, we also have what we are our add-ons merit badges, such as chess. So these are bundles or add-ons that your troop can sign up for, also that they can work at their own pace, or that they can bring along to an area where they rather not participate, though we want to encourage everyone to participate. But we do understand that there are some scouts that would rather just work on something on their own. Adult leaders. We have seen this once before, and Eric was funny and said, you know, if I already said it, go ahead and repeat it, because that means 2 of us are thinking alike. Adult leaders, we need your positive attitude. Your role during this week at Scout Camp is going to be very different than you have seen in the past. And these kids are going to be feeding off of your energy. we understand that things are going to be different, and we understand that things aren't going to be normal. And we just have to be as flexible as we possibly can and promote a very positive, amazing adventure that we know that this program can bring. As Eric was talking about earlier, we are staff is our own cohort. We have to also feed off the 16 limit also. So our staff are going to be divided up to 3 to 4 cohorts ourselves. So we can't intermix with those individual your cohorts, because we don't want to cross-contaminate anything. As a matter of fact, we have to follow the same guidelines when leaving camp also. We have to provide negative COVID tests. We have to provide proof of vaccination. So we are not only just following this, we're living it day to day also. So the staff will be there as facilitators. They will bring the program to you. They will talk to your scouts. They will explain things, but we're really going to be asking the older scouts and the adult leadership that will be in the campsite, what we're calling the over-the-shoulder instruction that traditionally staff would have provided. We're not going to be getting within 6 feet of your scouts, so that over-the-shoulder instruction is really going to be coming off of the adult leadership that you provide. We are really asking you guys to step up and fill that gap for us. Traditionally, we have done it. I love doing it. I'm going to miss it desperately, but these are some of the guidelines that we have to follow and to keep camp open. Adventure Week. I know we have been talking about this, or you've been reading about it. This is an amazing, we're doing something new. We're introducing as Eric says, the next great adventure. Scouts will attend as rovers or individuals rather than a troop. They will be forming their own cohort when they get to camp. These are a great option for your older scouts who do have all those merit badges that we were talking about. And, just a simple shameless plug here. Make it a second week and get 25% discount. Woohoo! But basically what we are doing is we're going to spend the week focusing on our favorite program. And we have several that we're offering. We have aquatics. Oops. Hold on. Here we go. We have aquatics and cope and climbing. We have shooting and survival and Eagle Quest. So aquatics will be focusing on all the aquatic merit badges. Plus, they will be going on a big adventure, heading out into the big waters on some sort of raft. Whether it's one of the larger boats or kayaking. The person who is heading this up has some amazing ideas, and he's still formulating and contacting people, but I'm excited to go on to that venture myself. Cope and climbing. This is, we're hoping to, during our normal weeks, be able to have a little bit of cope, but we're still trying to figure out how that's all going to work out. But this will give you cope and climbing opportunity for those scouts who really want to focus on that. And again, that's going to be all they're going to be doing that whole entire week. Shooting sports. There is one little caveat on that one where the scouts have to be 14 or older, because we are going to be certifying them. And then we got survival, and I don't think we're going to see Eric all week, because I think he's planning on hanging out with that group. But they are going to be, they're going to be coming home very, very, very dirty. They're going to be out there living and roughing it. And then our last one I wanted to talk about was Eagle Quest. And these are the traditional Eagle Merit badges that tend to hook up some of our older scouts that, you know, we got to get them done eventually. There will be communication before and after camp for those kids, so that they can receive those merit badges. But we want to provide a fun and a fun way for them to get those merit badges and still learn from them. For more information, you can see the website out down there. But we are really excited about this new program. When the idea was brought to us, we were like, well, but Eric and I were like, no, let's just do this. And so this is a program that both Eric and I are really excited about.
Absolutely, Darlene. And we're about to head into our question and answer section. And I see a great question from Brian from Troop 598 here about Adventure Week before we move on. He's wondering about an age minimum for cope and climbing. We thought really hard about our restrictions and tried to avoid any restrictions that we can. We know that there's 11 and 12-year-olds who can handle this sort of thing. We also know that there's 14 and 50-year-olds who cannot. And so parents and troops will need to make this call for their scouts. The only structural limitations that we couldn't avoid, because we are planning to offer the hunter safety education as part of shooting sports, you have to be 14 to get that certification. And for aquatics, we really need scouts to come to camp as strong swimmers. We don't have time to get them up to speed on swimming with all of the fun stuff we're doing. But beyond that, cope and climbing, especially the high cope stuff that they'll be doing, can require some real physical ability. I would encourage you to avoid sending anyone younger than 13, but we're not actually restricting it. Likewise with Eagle Quest, there will be a focus on a number of Eagle required merit badges there. Scouts who are a little older and a little more ready to tackle some of those classes are going to probably find a lot more success with it than an 11 or 12-year-old who is still working their way towards first class. But we're not going to artificially limit those. We're going to let you make those choices. So shotgun range, scouts as young as 11 can use the shotgun range per the Guide to Safe Scouting. So we're not instituting that age limit just to use shotgun during the summer. All right. I'm going to pop on to our questions here and move down from the top. So let's see. Jim from 356 is wondering if there will still be SPL meetings and Scoutmaster meetings. So we're planning 2 leaders meetings during the week that will be in person, and we'll be spreading out and making sure there's not enough space. On Sunday afternoon, there will be an SPL and Scoutmaster meeting out down in the Campfire Bowl with plenty of social distancing, where we'll get some information out. And then on Friday afternoon, as we're getting ready to close the week, we'll bring Scoutmasters back to go over all the end of the week logistical information and advancement paperwork and all of that stuff. In between, we're going to be having kind of an informal drop-in availability of camp leadership for leaders, adult leaders during lunchtime, and we'll be publishing a daily SPL newsletter with all of the things that would normally be delivered in person that the SPLs can pick up at lunchtime as well. So rather than bringing too many gatherings of folks together, we're looking at spreading it out through that pre-published stuff. Brian from 598 is wondering, how will special needs meals be handled? We've got the same special needs request form out there that we've used in past years. We need to know by June 15th what your needs are. And just as we're packing meals for cohorts, we'll have those special meals packed up. They'll be labeled and kept separate and uncontaminated from anything else for the scouts who need them. There's not an age minimum for first aid or search and rescue. David was wondering about that. in that we find that troops often like to send their younger scouts to the first aid merit badge. And so we thought that it's likely that a lot of older scouts would already have it, which meant that we wanted to offer something a little more obscure, and search and rescue is a great class to get folks, get our scouts out physically doing stuff in the woods looking for lost people or lost ducks or whatever we happen to be putting out there. Some great questions from Rob here on cohorts and that limit of 16 scouts. And let me say, when we were first looking at cohorts, we were really hoping that we'd have a higher number, that we could say your campsite is your cohort, full stop, regardless of whether it was 6 scouts or 36 scouts in there. But 16 was a pretty hard limit that the state came back to us with on that. So the question is, if a troop spans more than one cohort, will they still be in the same site? That is our intention, Rob. So you'll still have daily communication and interaction between cohorts in your troop. You'll just be maintaining that 6 feet of separation. That means that you'll want to be cooking separately. We'll want to be careful in using outhouses and hand washing stations, that there's respect given to space and that sort of thing, and plenty of sanitation going on. We're seeking some supplemental guidance from the Skagit County Health Department on how they want that sanitation process to go when cohorts are sharing those spaces. And we'll be communicating more as soon as we've got that feedback from them. Rob is also wondering if a linked troop can mix to form a cohort of boys and girls. In most cases, I would say the girls troops that are coming seem to be appropriately sized for their own cohort, separate from the boys troops that they're connected to. And if they're forming one cohort, that means that the boys and girls would be choosing one bundle that they're doing together instead of their own choices. Rob, that's definitely something I'm open to discussing more on. And if you want to reach out to me directly, we can talk about your specific situation and what that could look like. Finally, Rob's wondering if scouts and leaders can use personal tents if they prefer, and absolutely, that's more than acceptable. All of our sites have at least one dedicated gravel bed setup or tent platform set up for tents, and have lots of other space as well that can be used. Let's see, some more questions down here. Talk to the minimum age for cope and climbing. Oh, did you lose me, Jolene? Am I just talking to an empty room right now?
I see you. You're here.
Okay. Sorry about that. Let's see. Bob is wondering, is search and rescue a full or partial badge? Jolene, refresh my memory. Is there prereqs that need to be done in order to complete it?
I believe there are prereqs, yes.
Okay. The prereqs required are listed in the program guide, Bob, and you can check that to see what they are. But as long as prereqs are done, then they can complete it at camp. Josh is wondering, how much will the scouts truly be required to wear masks? Will there be times when they can be without them while in their cohort? So Josh, that's a great question. The way we read the state guidance is that you need to be wearing masks unless you're eating, sleeping, brushing your teeth. They notably don't include showering as an exception, but I'm not going to look at what's going on in the shower, so nor should any of us. So I think masks are optional there. In terms of cohort time, the expectation is that they'll still be wearing masks even casually around the campsite and with their cohort members. I'm sure that that you and the scouts in your cohort will find a balance that makes sense and keeps everyone safe. Will the list of Adventure Day activities be posted before camp? Yeah, I think we can commit to having those options available, right, Jolene?
Yes, absolutely.
We have a full pre-camp meeting scheduled for May 24th. Let me double check that I'm not lying to you. Yes, May 24th at 7 p.m. And we will certainly have those activities available by then, if not sooner, for you to take a look at. And then you'll turn in your submission, your requested activities on Sunday night when you arrive at camp. Brian's wondering if one scout can work on wilderness survival. So wilderness survival will be bundled with a couple of other badges, and you can have scouts choose which one within that they work on. So it may just be that one scout in the cohort wants to work on wilderness survival and the rest of the scouts are working on the other one. We do know that there's unavoidably a certain limit to how many or how much a scout gets to make choices. With our bundle, some of our bundles only have 2 or 3 badges, and it could be that one scout in a cohort says there's nothing there I want to work on, but everyone else really wants to be there, and that one scout is going to face, you know, the option of having to choose something that wouldn't be on their list of priorities normally. We've tried to create as many options as we can to avoid that, but that's kind of in the nature of the beast this summer, and we hope that we'll be able to keep your scouts excited even with that limitation. Christine is wondering if there will be a place to charge medical devices. So yes, we still have our Scoutmasters Lounge available, and while we won't have chairs for actual lounging, there will still be coffee available for leaders and still access to all of the charging space that's in there for those devices. Christina, if there's a youth who needs to access charging, we can talk about that as well, and you should feel free to reach out to me specifically on that one. Very complicated food allergies. Christina, go ahead and grab my email at the end of this and send me an email, and we'll figure that out. Yes, we have places to store food that you can access, and I know that we do have folks who with complicated food allergies that will bring their own, and we're more than able and ready to accommodate that. All right. I think I'm reaching the end of questions here. Bob's wondering, is chess, which Jolyn mentioned as an add-on merit badge, a full or a partial badge? Chess is something that can be completed at camp. It definitely takes a number of games and some learning and that sort of stuff that has to be done. So because it's an add-on, the scout will really have to be committed to completing it, but it is possible. David is wondering how full camp is and if we're operating at 100% capacity. So David, because of the way we're limiting numbers of people in campsites, we aren't doubling or tripling up smaller troops the way we normally would in summers. We are at 100% capacity for campsites. I think we have 3 openings across our entire summer schedule right now. However, that means we're looking at anywhere from 160 to 180 scouts in a week. Normally, we'd consider about 250 scouts capacity. So because of the space restrictions, we're a little lower than we would normally be. But we're at 100% or just about of what our projected capacity was under these restrictions. I think I've got all of the questions there, and if more come in, that's great, but otherwise, we very much enjoyed having you with us here. Here again is all of our contact information, and I do want to plug one more time, Adventure Week is a great new opportunity, especially for maybe an older scout who's not excited about the bundle options, to really dive into something that they're passionate about at camp. You can find more information there, and we'll be continuing to contact and promote that in the coming days and weeks. Thanks so much for coming tonight, and please feel free to reach out with any further questions that you have, and we'll see you at camp this summer. It's going to be great.
Thank you, Eric and Jolyn.
Thank you.